Hare Krishna. The capacity to choose alone doesn't bring freedom. The maturity to choose well does. Freedom is a much loved and much cherished word, and rightly so. At the same time, freedom is not as easy to understand as we may first think. Usually, if we are not able to do something, then we think we are not free. And then we want freedom, which we think is the capacity to do what we would like to do. At the same time, we see that not in all situations the capacity to choose what we like to do will bring freedom. Now, for example, if a person is, say, addicted to watching TV, and that person watches more and more TV and thinks that I just want more and more time to watch more and more TV. And the person keeps watching TV, keeps watching TV, keeps watching TV, eventually becomes a TV addict. And then what is the result of that? The person is no longer able to watch TV, is not able to do other things. And the person, in the getting the freedom to watch TV, has lost the freedom to do other more constructive things. And in this way, one ends up actually losing freedom in the name of gaining freedom. So the capacity to choose alone doesn't bring freedom. It can often end in addiction. What brings freedom is the maturity to choose wisely. And that maturity comes through purity. That maturity comes first through intelligence and then through the awakening of our conscience, both of which comprise the development of our purity. So we need wisdom, we need intelligence to understand, okay, this is a healthy choice, this is an unhealthy choice. So we are not talking about moral policing here which deprives us of freedom. Rather, we are talking about intelligent discerning by which we can make healthy choices. So freedom requires the maturity by which we can make right choices. Now, of course, this doesn't mean superciliously that people should not be given the right to choose, but rather than simply thrusting on them the capacity to choose by presenting them with multiple options, we also need to give them the intelligence, the skills by which they can choose properly. In many countries, advertisements that targeted towards small children are banned because the children don't have the intellectual tools to that intellectual capacities are not yet developed to be able to discern which advertisement they should which is true and which is not true, which is believable, which is not believable. They basically can't discern. Actually speaking, many adults also can't discern. But I'm giving the example here to illustrate the principle that there is just thrusting choices at people doesn't make them free. Rather, empowering them to make healthy choices is what makes them free. And it is this kind of freedom that spiritual culture offers us. Spirituality actually enables us to become purified of our lower desires, and by becoming purified of those lower desires, we can actually choose healthily. So ragadvesha vimuktaistu vishayanindriyaischaranaatmavasyair vidhayatma prasadamadigacchyati. In 2.64 in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna tells Arjuna that one who puts aside one's likes and dislikes and acts according to scripture, such a person will actually attain mercy, prasadamadigacchyati, and that prasada will lead to actual freedom by which we will understand what is good for us and we will be able to choose that which is good for us. And that capacity to choose wisely is true freedom, because that will lead to happiness. Otherwise, freedom, what we call as freedom, will lead to misery. So, and that is actually not freedom, that is misery, because ultimately we want freedom to be happy. We don't want freedom to be miserable. Rather, we feel that the lack of freedom is misery. So if our idea that this is freedom and that leads us to misery, then that is not really freedom. Freedom is the freedom to make the choices that lead us to happiness. And that happens not just by the capacity to choose, but by the maturity to choose wisely. Thank you. Hare Krishna.